Hello and welcome to FireDEV, a fireside chat with developers. So today this is a chat with the developer over at Spring Studio who has created the game Divide and Rule amongst many other games as well. So this podcast was not done in the conventional sense where we were both on the call and I was asking questions and he was responding due to just time constraints. He What we did was I would email him a question or a few questions and he would respond with the answers. So all of this podcast will be me talking. I'll be asking the question, then I'll be saying his answer as well. Let me know what you think of this type of format, because for this particular guest, this was more feasible, more practical. And if there's other guests where they might lean towards more something like this, then I wouldn't mind getting them on, because there's a few guests that I want on, and they're a bit camera shy, they're a bit private, but they might be okay with it if it's more text based like this. Okay, so let's begin. So, how long was the divide and rule created? So, how long did it take? So, it's about 5 years from scratch, creating all necessary engines. What technologies are you using? Alas, mainly I use my created engines: dialogue panel engine, zoomable scrollable game field engine, sound engine, network game engine. Took too long to create them from scratch. The foundation I used was Google Play Games, which is obsolete now. Later, I had to use Firebase for network tasks such as internet multiplier and maps on server upload and download. SDK box plugins I used were SDK box ads, Facebook, in-app purchases, so for Apple, AdMob, and Google Play services. And also, just to let you know, I'm leaving the answers as they are. So obviously, if they don't sound exactly right or there's not enough information, it's just because I'm not editing, tweaking the answers in any major way at all. Okay, so what games and game developers do you admire? You Outro and his game Anti-Yoi DAR, so Divide and Rule, is its replica. In the Yotro, in 8 years, has created many popular games, and he creates them very quickly. The last game he released, when the war came into his city, he lives in Kiev. Last, he says he is not interested in money. Another admirable person, indie developer from my city. I saw him once having business, kids, and wife. He started to create his game working at night when he was older than 40. After he created the game for about 18 months, he was able to interest investors who spent 100,000 euros to promote the game. During 1 year, this game, which is Human Fall Flat, earned 15 million euros. Did I say 15 million? Yes, 15 million euros. So yeah, I mean, this is a game that I've personally heard of myself as well, and I have played, so that's a big one. What do you define as success for your games? Money, profit. Simple answer. Okay, which game would you love to work on, past, present, and future? A successful product that requires a lot of research, like StarCraft. You see, when you work on a game professionally, it's different from being an indie developer. Indie is like a man who loves a meat burger. And professional game development is like a worker in a sausage factory. So imagine what will happen to the young hamburger lover when he sees the whole production process. So maybe only a StarCraft game. Yeah, that's a fair enough answer. Would you rather earn $1 million from indie development or $2 million from working in a big games company? It depends on how long, painful, and inconvenient the work process will be. On the one hand, the process of indie work cannot always be only joy. On the other hand, there are companies that promise you good money, but after you have worked for them for more than 20 years, I believe that 1 million is better to get at 30 than not at 70. I agree, depends on the time period. How many downloads has your game received so far? Too few, less than 1 million. What are your future development plans? To complete current projects, so divide and rule, and to improve it to get money profit, then to find another more successful project to implement and to get profit from it. What do you think of the Steam Deck from a developer's perspective? Well, I think for game developers is good not only fans and profit, but also freedom and a large community of players. This is why Android becomes so popular for players and for developers alike, regardless the decrease of its game's playability. Also for developers, Android gave illusion what anyone may become indie and may create a hit game. Steam Deck seems to give some benefits and hardware quality, but also some limitations. I think it will have a higher entry threshold for players and developers. Thinking about Steam Deck prospects, I get flashback of Nintendo Switch, Windows Phone, and even Nokia and Symbian. What is your favorite genre? Strategies, games where you have to make plans. That's why I become a programmer, not a sales manager. Which movie would you like to see most as a game? Well, movie the complete story with a fixed action, and in games the best thing I like is the freedom. When you play with illusion, what you are creating your own story, when you try another way to play. Now for me, maybe the Rim World is the best implementation of adventure survival movies, starting from Jules Verne stories and movies. Which game would you like to see most as a movie? Elite 1985, if serious, or Tetris 1984. Really wonder what kind of plot they could come up with for Tetris. What are the biggest hurdles you faced when starting out indie dev, and what would you do differently? Well, when you are alone indie, all project problems are yours to manage them. The main constant problem is that your game is not the best, not number one. Quite hard to pick up sounds for my games. They are like disturbing noise for a programmer. Harder is to switch between different parts of the code or between different tasks, marketing, gameplay, improvement, sounds, graphics, and code. Maybe the hardest is to choose to continue to improve your project or try to change something in general, try another game type, or try another way to earn money. Now I know the pitfalls along the past way, for example, the problems and inconveniences of the tools that are used. For example, Cocos 2DX. Don't know about the problems on Overpass, for example. I heard that Unity is quite difficult to master. Yes, I mean I can personally agree, attest that I used something like Unity and Unreal. It depends on what you're doing, in my opinion. To be fair, I think if you're really going for some AAA or some big ass title, especially a 3D one, you can do 2D, but especially a 3D one, it's kind of a no brainer unless you really want to tweak and create your own engine and your own libraries. Otherwise, it's a bit overkill for simple, let's say, a Flappy Bird or a Tetris game. Do you ever regret the indie life? Yes, every time I see my game not so popular as I expected. Oh, trust me, brother, we've all been there. What indie dev keeps you excited and makes you and wakes you up? The idea not to work under the stupid management who slows down and kills their businesses, but many of them are still alive, not to support them with my lifetime, not to waste it on them. Have you ever worked on a project and cancelled it? Yes, it was an arcade game. I was doing it about 1 year. Then I put it on hold after seeing that its gameplay was not the best. What do you think of consoles for indie developers? I think the price of console raises the bar for its game quality. I'm not sure if all indies will fit this. How many downloads per month would make you happy? 100,000 or more. How much money per month would make you happy from your indie pursuits? There is no set amount. I want this amount to exceed the average wage, grow constantly because the appetite comes with eating, and also outpace inflation. Love the previous answer. Talk to me about your feelings about lifestyle inflation. Apparently, in a quiet life, away from wars and hunger, everything eventually gets boring. At first, stability bothers, then financial growth bothers. Person wants it to go faster. Is there an amount that will be more than enough? Well, the amount for the middle class. This should be enough, but only for the first few years, I guess. How long have you been a developer? Well, professional for over 20 years. What made you become a developer? Reluctance to redo, the desire to do one's qualitatively, but for a long time. What do you wish you knew when you started that you know now? Bitcoin, of course. My friend managed to buy a house thanks to that. Yeah, yeah, I mean, those are one of those things again, shares, on the dot com bubble. Better to get in now or still to get in at some point. That's just my opinion personally. Do you regret becoming a developer? Not sure if there was an alternative for me. How do you find the indie life? And do you regret it? In my honest opinion, it's a sweet illusion for most people that if they enjoy playing games, they can make a great popular game. Statistics say that the more successful and interesting the game, the less likely that everyone will be able to create one. I mean, 100% true. Like from my research, I think like over 90% of apps that get released never get one or even 10 downloads. They're like not downloaded at all, and it's just insane. The When you see these statistics, a lot of people are under the illusion that okay, I've got this idea, therefore, I've done all the work. Somebody, I mean, I've had this loads of times said to me, so, you're a programmer, I'll go side there, I'll give you the idea, you do it, and we split 50-50, for example, or whatever. It's like, coming up with the idea is not the hard part. Yes, idea is important. Yes, especially if you're, sort of, polishing it, you're doing research, which people never do, otherwise they'll start developing it themselves. I'm going off on a tangent now. And okay, what do you hate about being a developer? When the big money hasn't come to you yet, when you realize that a good programmer and a good game designer are rarely the same person. So yeah, so somebody good at making it and actually getting a good product that's successful are not necessarily, linked. If you could work on any product, past, present, or future, what would it be? Sorry, no specific answer. Should be a successful product, but I can't decide which is better for me. Should it be only one release or a new version released every year? Maybe software for an implantable computer. Even cooler would be the coding of genes when creating a living organism. What careers did you think about as an alternative growing up? Space explorer, but that was when I was very young. Do you have a dream company to work at? Why and what would you like to do there? Now, apparently, I'm an individualist. What do you think of remote working versus in the office? In my honest opinion, remote working is much better for many people, I think. How did you find COVID? Especially considering it forced a lot of people to work remotely. Yes, COVID managed to change the world, stereotypes a little. Do you have any family members or close family friends that are developers, and how did that influence your decision to become one? My father worked with developers. His experience could not convince me. Would you ever switch careers? I tried. Unfortunately, I had a breakdown. I really wanted to code, and after 3 months, I became an indie. So he wanted to, I guess, work for a company, but he didn't like it, and then he became an indie. How much more would you need to earn to switch careers? As much as is enough for more interesting activities, for example, to change the genome of living beings. Do you code outside of work? And how do you find that? Do you enjoy it as much when you didn't have a job? Office work can be comfortable, but on your own, you can create much better working conditions for yourself, tailored for you. Doing other people's projects can be boring and pointless. Inactivity is killing me. Did you go to university and what did you study? Yes, 1995 to 2002, informatics. Would you recommend uni to people? In my honest opinion, the most effective thing that a university usually gives is the chance to make the right acquaintances in a professional environment. What myths about programming did you have before getting a job? IT people have time to live and they are happy. Do you keep up with the latest trends, advances, and programming languages in this field? No, I come up with a problem and I look for tools for it based on the foundation that I use. Would you rather run a 10-person company or a 1,000-person company, and why? Preferably none of the options, just go with it all. Does money buy you happiness? I remember the depression of the creator of Minecraft. Maybe money is another tool, versatile and maybe powerful. 5 million upfront or half a million a year for the rest of your life. If it is the same currency per year. Favorite board game? Rummy then Kalis. Never heard of those? I will Google them after. Favorite video game? Civilization, then Elite 1985, then StarCraft. From new games, RimWorld, Minecraft is quite good. Video game you are looking forward to? Nothing specific, but I thought, should the game only entertain or more help a person in life? What technology stack are you using? VS 2019, Android Studio, Cocos 2DX engine. What advice would you give as a developer? Plan and analyze more and more carefully and use the best tools available. So that's it. That was a very short podcast with Spring Studio. Like I said, I read out the questions and I also read out the answers because due to time constraints, Spring Studio, the developer there, was unable to jump on a call to do this because they usually last for 1.5 to 3 hours. And obviously, he just sent me a list of answers. So check out his game Divide and Rule. If you like this podcast, let me know. And let me know if you like this format of podcast. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Thanks for listening. This has been FireDEV, a fireside chat with developers, and I'll see you in the next episode.